Las Vegas Summer League is upon us. Viva Las Vegas, baby. Will Memphis win the Summer League? That is a question we're going to answer on this episode of Locked On Grizzlies. Plus, we're going to play a nice over-under game in honor of Vegas, baby. And we're going to close out with a wonderful look at some other teams potentially to watch going into Vegas. Stick around. Have a great Friday here with us on Locked On Grizzlies. Let's lock in.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
It is Friday. Got to get down on Friday. Fun. Looking forward to the weekend. A wise philosopher once said. Thank you so much for being with us here on Locked On Grizzlies. We are partying indeed. We are living large, Las Vegas style. The Vegas Summer League begins tonight, and the Grizzlies are in pursuit of a Vegas championship. Will that actually come into being? We'll talk about that coming up here on Locked On Grizzlies. I'm joined by my co-host, Damichael of the Commercial Appeal there in Memphis, Tennessee. Always exciting to have Damichael with me and with us here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every single day. Make sure you're subscribing, liking, commenting, rating, reviewing wherever you get podcasts. YouTube is obviously a wonderful way to take in the show, but it's hard to watch YouTube on the go sometimes. Maybe you're driving in your car. Maybe you're exercising on the treadmill. Subscribe on one of the podcast stations like Spotify, Apple, Amazon. Wherever you get an audio podcast, you can most certainly get Locked On Grizzlies. And if you subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on the audio channels as well. By all means, make us a part of your Memphis Grizzlies and NBA content consumption each and every time an episode drops. Damichael Cole of the Commercial Appeal there in Memphis, Tennessee. Vegas, baby, we're there. Kicks off tonight, and I'm going big in our first segment here, partner. Are the Grizzlies actually going to win this thing? If you look at their schedule, it seems set up, at least in my opinion, where they should be able to kind of go on depending on how they treat it, and that'll be part of our show later on. The Kings, the Mavs, the Magic, the Pelicans. In my opinion, it sets up nicely for the Grizzlies to go on a little bit of a run and have a high seed going into tournament play. But it all depends on who's out on the court. So I'm putting you on the spot, partner. Are the Grizzlies going to win Summer League?
They got a really good shot.
Ooh,
and
I like that energy.
If you look at the schedule, you start off with the Kings. They're missing Devin Carter. Then you go to the Mavs, and we'll preview all these games when we get closer to them. But just skimming through it real quick. You go to the Mavs. They don't. There's not a young prospect over there, or two or three that catch my eye. Orlando, kind of same thing. New Orleans, kind of same things. Like, these are rosters that are more developed in that second stage, kind of like the Grizzlies, but the Grizzlies are different because they're in that second stage as well, but they have the G.G. Jacksons because they found them in the second round. They have the Scottie Pippen Juniors because of last season, the way it played out, and they have the Zach Edeys because of last season and the way it played out. Based on their schedule, I think there's a solid chance that we're talking 3-1. They don't have a back-to-back into the last two games. I think the 17th and the 18th. So by that point, like, if you're 3-0 on the 17th, maybe you play for it on the 18th and you go for that opportunity to be one of those. I think it's 4 teams, or is it? It's 4 or 6. I think it's quarterfinals or semifinals. I believe it's 4 teams that move on to the playoff round, and it's a single game elimination or whatever, and compete for the Summer League championship. But from a talent standpoint, again, to have a lead guard is everything in Summer League. The Grizzlies got a lead guard, they got scorers, they got shooters, and that last game showed us how much they got shooters, didn't it, Joe? I mean, without Cam Spencer, without Jalen Wells, without Jake LaRavia out there, I mean, it was ugly. But they got those guys, and you got the big man in the middle. And Zach Edey. So they got all the pieces right now. I mean, that Utah team is one that figures to be really good, and that's going to be probably the Grizzlies' best competition, on paper. But they don't play them in their 4 games. But I think it's a strong thing to say that the Grizzlies should be one of the 2 or 3 favorites to win this thing.
It all comes into how they approach it. Right? Like, I complained on yesterday's show about Zach Edey walking around fine on his ankle. Oh, and by the way, Coach Jason March came out and said, this boy wants to play, but we'll see how we treat it. They're leaving the door open to not play him again, Damichael.
You know what that means, right? He wants to play, but we'll see how.
Right.
It means those higher ups.
Those
higher ups got to make that decision.
He may not play the opening game. Maybe he plays, since there's 2 days off after the opener. Maybe he plays the second game, but he may not play tonight. So I'm concerned how they're going to approach it. I would not make the bet on them winning it because of that. It's very possible, maybe Edey is dominant again and he takes a tumble, right? And he pops up and he's got a bruised tailbone. He bruises his butt or whatever the case might be. And nope, we're shutting him down. Don't want him to fall, right? It could be something where the team does that. And if that happens, then it changes everything. It changes the calculus. They need as many of these guys to help them out as possible. We saw that in that final game.
Let me give you this, Joe. What if I said that even without Edey, they still should be one of the best teams in Summer League?
One of the best, maybe not the best.
Exactly.
Again, you talked about it being a top 4 team situation. I'm not sure they are that without Zach Edey.
I think they can be. I think Edey is the trump card for sure. But Trey Jemison just had a 20.7 rebound game and was solid. I think the fact that you have an experienced guy and he's not like anything special from the standpoint like he's gonna go out there and 14, 15, 4 blocks like Edey. Trey Jemison is good enough where he won't be just brutally dominated out there by other center matchups. He competes really hard. He's assertive defensively, and he has that little floater or that little running float shot that he's gonna knock down with some semi regularity at least. So even with the limitations in his offensive game, I think he's decent enough because Scottie Pippen Jr. is good, point blank period. And then you have the shooters, because what we didn't see in those because the reason, I understand why you're hesitant to agree with me on that, because we didn't see it the last 2 games that Edey didn't play. Because not only was it Edey that was out for both of those games, Jake LaRavia was out for both of those games as well. But in the first game, we saw the shooters, but it was no Jake LaRavia, no Scottie Pippen, no G.G. Jackson. Then Scottie Pippen and G.G. Jackson come back, then you take the shooters away. So all I'm saying, if you give me Scottie Pippen Jr., you give me those 2 shooters and Jalen Wells, Cam Spencer, they're not going to miss too many shots. And you give me, G.G. Jackson, you give me Jake LaRavia, and you say, might use Zach Edey for a couple games or whatever. I still think that puts them in position. You'll need Edey for some part because, if you're familiar with the Summer League tie-breaking system, that it'll come into play because typically, if it is 4 teams, usually it's 1 team, maybe 2 teams. They're 4-0, and then it's a bunch of 3-1 teams or a few 3-1 teams. But tiebreaker is usually one of those, or head-to-head. But tiebreaker usually comes into play, and usually the tiebreaker is a game, point differential. So having Zach Edey will give the Grizzlies a bigger point differential and will help in that case in the earlier games. So I do agree that they will need him in order to win the Summer League championship. But if they get off to a good start and the Grizzlies say, let's see, he's too good for this team, I don't think that just eliminates the idea of them winning the Summer League championship.
I've been burned, Damichael Cole. I've been burned by this team time and time again with their injury perspective.
You ain't falling for it, Joe.
I'm not ready to be hurt again. That might change on social media over the weekend. By all means, follow me at Joe Mullinax. Follow Damichael at Damichael C. I'm not ready to be hurt again yet. I'm not going to get my hopes up. I want to watch them compete. We'll talk about how the games go, that sort of thing, on our Monday edition. Obviously, they play Friday or today, and I don't think they play again until Monday.
Monday, yep.
So 1 game to break down, 1 game to preview on our Monday edition of the show. It's going to be interesting to watch how they address the Edey situation. I think they need him to win a championship. Let Damichael and I know what you guys think in the comments. When we come back, we're going to be discussing a little over-under action. They're in Vegas now, and I've got some numbers for Damichael to take the over or the under on. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Grizzlies. But first, This episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die whip alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you are looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. With eBay Motors, you are burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it is easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the big win. Keep your ride or die whip alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to United States customers. When we return here on Locked On Grizzlies, we are talking over-under Vegas style. Stick with us. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies. I am Joe Mullinax, joined by Damichael Cole of the Commercial Appeal there in Memphis, Tennessee. Award-winning Memphis Grizzlies beat writer for that publication. Make sure you're following him on X at Damichael C. Make sure you're following me on X at Joe Mullinax. It's going to be a fun Vegas Summer League, and it's going to be wild to watch unfold. And I think that a major piece of that, Damichael, is the uncertainty, like we talked about in the first segment, right? So I've got 3 numbers for you. Okay. Kind of be a rapid fire situation so we can, I can respond a little bit, but it's more so for you. I've got 3 numbers for you, and the simple over under, right? It's going to be 1.5. For example, by the end of this year, Joe will have over under 1.5 hairs left on his head, right? You're going to take the under because I'm going.
Or 6.5 tangents about.
Gosh, take the over on that.
Take the over on that.
That's exactly how it works. All right. So for those that aren't as familiar with gambling, that's the way it's going to go. Are they going to have more than or less than? Kind of like our good friends over at Prize Picks, right? So here we go. Over under, and it ties into what we talked about in the previous segment. 3.5 games played for Zach Edey at Summer League in Vegas. Over or under? So the over would mean he's playing 4 games. The under would mean he's playing 3 or less. 4 or more, I should say.
Yeah. I'm going to take the under on this one. If he comes out and we see 15 and 12, and then we see 13 and 11 and 3 blocks, 4 blocks, and what is there left for Zach Edey to prove in Summer League? Remember, this is a guy. This isn't a rookie who's in a situation where when the season starts, he's going to just be sitting behind a bunch of veterans and you just throw him out there in Summer League because this is his chance to play a lot. No, this is a guy who you expect to play a decent amount of minutes on what should be a playoff team. So, I'm going with the under on here. I'm basically projecting that 1, he'll be good enough where you can confidently do that without feeling like he's missing, some real developmental opportunities.
I'm going to agree with you, and that's why I'm not going to pick them to win the Summer League because they're not going to take it seriously. All this time I've been saying, are you trying to win a championship or not? I didn't specify to Michael. This is a Summer League championship, baby. Yeah. They can go and get this thing, but they're not going to, and I'm with you. I think Edey probably plays 3 games tops. That's my prediction. Another over-under number, we're going to put this one at 2.5 assists per game for G.G. Jackson. 2.5 assists per game. You and I have talked a lot about his need to develop as a facilitator. Are you taking the over or the under on that? 2.5 assists per game for Gigi.
I'm going to take the under here as well. I'm not really a believer yet in that aspect of his game. There are signs there. I mean, that pass he made, the wraparound to Zach Edey in that first game was really good, but that was his only assist. And then you go to the second game he played, you go through 3 quarters of basketball, and I'm looking at the stat sheet. I'm like, that starter has some assists. That starter has some assists. There's only one guy in the starting lineup with a donut going to the 4th quarter and assist, and it was G.G. Jackson. Now, granted, he had 2 assists in the 4th.
Right.
I'm just not overly convinced yet. I mean, can he create? There's without a doubt. Like, we see him beating guys off the dribble, penetrating into defenses and all that. But now – it's all about making the right pass and guys making shots off of it as well. Maybe he averages around 2, which is better than what he averaged this past regular season with the Grizzlies. He averaged 1.2 assists, but 2.5, that have to make me a believer. I think that'd be a good turnout if he gets over 2.5 assists.
I would agree. I think that if he's around that number, it's a success. Again, we talked yesterday. He is not a player that you're looking at and saying immediately be better at this, right? He's 19 years old. You're asking him to do things that he hasn't necessarily been asked to do before. It's about development, especially on my end where I've put so much on him as a sixth man type. You have not gone that far, to credit to you. No. So you're not as concerned about it as I am. I've planted the flag. I need him to speed it up a little bit. And maybe he doesn't. And maybe it'll be one of the countless times that I've been wrong. But I do believe that there should be some signs of at least attempts, right? Because part of an assist is a made bucket. And going back to another part of our conversation from yesterday's show, if these other guys aren't going to play, who in the heck is he passing to? No disrespect to, DJ Jeffries and other members of the current Grizzlies squad. They're more likely to be on the Memphis Hustle in the fall and winter than they are to be on the Memphis Grizzlies, if that, right? So how they treat it is going to be a major piece of that. Another one for you, Damichael. Over or under 2.5 made threes per game for Jalen Wells, your boy? Is he going to go over or under that per game in Las Vegas?
Man, if you would have said the other one, I might have taken the over, but I'm going to go slightly under here. I think he makes over 2 per game, but 2.5 means he's closer to 3 than to 2. And I'm gonna take the under, but this one's a little bit confidently take the under on the other two. This one, I'm going to say slightly. I think Jalen Wells is because if you look at all he has to do is have one game where he makes 5-6 3-pointers, and then he's going to balloon over 2 with ease. But I think he'll confidently sit in there around the 2.3 makes per game, somewhere in that range. This one's a tough one, because I think what we saw in that last game is he lets the shots come to him. He went 3 of 7 it was in that last game from 3-point range. And he's going to let the shots come to him. He's spacing the floor. So he's not someone that I expect to go out there and, like Gigi Jackson did that first game, take 10 3-point attempts and just go out there and try to go get it. He's going to let it come to him. So I think that sort of, I don't want to say passiveness, but it's more of just playing the right way and, letting your teammates eat too. That'll lead to him not just taking a whole bunch of 3-point attempts, which will lead to him around probably 6 3-point attempts a game, and he'll finish somewhere around 2.5 makes, and I say just a little bit under.
I feel like Jalen Wells in that second game where he hit the game-winning floater, there had to be so much confidence built in that, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I belong. This is my opportunity. We got to remember, this is a guy who started at a Division II school, worked his way up to Washington State, second-round pick for the Grizzlies. Yeah. His
coach thought he should come back.
He has to have that moment where he feels like he belongs. And I think that was his moment there, to be sure. And then last one, this is going to be a little bit easier for you, partner. Right. Over or under 0.5 Luke Kennard's being officially on the Memphis Grizzlies by the time Summer League ends. Over, under 0.5 Luke Kennard's. So essentially I'm asking, is Luke Kennard going to be re-signed by the end of Vegas or not?
Over, under Luke Kennard. So there's only one Luke Kennard out there, right? So there
could be 0 Luke Kennards. There could be 0, or there could be 1. There could be 0, like he's not re-signed, or there could be 1, like he's back.
There could be 1. Yeah, I'm gonna take the over on this one, Joe. I think by the end of Summer League, we'll be saying that Luke Kennard is a member of the Grizzlies, and we'll be discussing how the rest of the roster will be looking around that.
I'm with you on that. I agree. There will be 1 Luke Kennard. Let us know of your guys' over-unders on Zach Edey's games played, Jalen Wells' made threes, Gigi Jackson's assists, and the 0.5 Luke Kennard's. We're not talking about a short Luke Kennard. We're talking about whether or not he'll be re-signed by the end of Summer League. Remember that Locked On Sports Today is a 24/7 streaming service on YouTube, the first of its kind. It's a place where you can check out podcasts from the Locked On Podcast Network, like Locked On Grizzlies, that are not involved in screaming at you, like Fox Sports or ESPN. There's no angry talking heads. It's analysis and passionate conversation about teams each and every day, just like here on Locked On Grizzlies, gathered up in one place. Locked On Sports Today should definitely be your second listen today. Make sure you're checking that out over on YouTube. You can also check it out on the Amazon Fire free TV channels app. This episode of Locked On Grizzlies is brought to you by BetterHelp. Obviously, we all go through tough times, right? And a lot of times we compare our difficulties and our successes to those of other people, right? Social media can play a role in that, looking and scrolling through other people's pages, all the fun they're having, all the money they must enjoy. It can be really hard to watch someone else's life through the lens that they're choosing on social media. But comparison is the thief of joy. And while it's easy to envy other people's lives, they might look like they have it all together on Instagram, but in reality, they probably don't. Therapy can help you focus on what you want instead of what others have, so you can start living your best life. If you're thinking of starting therapy, you should give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Fill out a brief questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Start focusing on you with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. When we come back here on Locked On Grizzlies, we're going to talk about others to watch out in Vegas. Maybe not a player on the Grizzlies even. Stick around. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies. I'm Joe Mullinax with my co-host Damichael Cole of the Commercial Appeal there in Memphis, Tennessee. Thank you so much for being with us on this Friday edition of the show. We're excited to be back with you on Monday, a Summer League game to review, a Summer League game to preview, lots of different angles we can take heading into the Monday show. But before we get to Monday, partner, is there anybody else out at Vegas? You know, we talked on a previous episode. You could argue Zach Edey is the most interesting guy to watch going into Las Vegas. That's one of the interesting parts of this draft class. Is there any other team, any other player that you're really kind of looking at and you're excited to say, I wonder how that's going to work or look going into Summer League? Because as you know, you've been there before. It's a hoop head's dream, right? Games all over the place, all sorts of different things to watch and see. What is some stuff that you want to see? It could be Grizzly specific or it could be just NBA wide.
Yeah, I'll do both. Starting with NBA wide, and then I'll turn it back to the Grizzlies.
Sure.
NBA wide, I guess. Honestly, this draft class just doesn't have the star power where I remember last year when we were in Vegas, like when Victor Wembanyama was about to play, like there were two games going on at the same time. You kind of felt bad for the game in the smaller arena because like everyone is just leaving that arena and just and going over to the bigger one. I think the bigger one is the Thomas and Mack Center.
Yes.
And everyone's heading over there, just trying to check out, what's going on because it was Victor Wembanyama and it was packed out. So there's Bronny James is probably the closest. And quite frankly, I just want to see how Bronny develops throughout this process. The defense, defensively, he looks really good. Offensively, you can tell he still has a ways to go. But he's young again, like he's 19 years old. And we'll see, over the course of this, 3, 4, 5, how many games he plays, how he develops. That's the one guy, just from an entertainment standpoint, just of course from the storyline standpoint that I want to see as well. Other than that, now tying it back to the Grizzlies, I got to keep going back to Gigi. Gigi's the guy. Like he is a potential swing piece for this Grizzlies team. Other than John Morant, Desmond Bane, and Jaren Jackson Jr., who is your next creator? Who is the next guy that you trust? 10 seconds on the shot clock with the ball in his hands and say he's going to make the right play, not just for himself, but for his teammates, and he's going to break a defense down. Marcus Smart's going to make the right play for himself or his teammates, but is he going to break the defense down?
Right.
I don't trust that as much as I would with a Gigi who develops a little bit more. And when I say swing piece, what I mean by that is if Gigi doesn't develop not even just over the course of Summer League, but Summer League over the next couple months, if he doesn't develop more as a playmaker, this isn't even me saying, look, you've been around the Grizzlies, watching the Grizzlies enough. He's not going to be in this rotation.
Oh, no.
Not at the start. Not at the start. Santi Aldama's going to get those minutes, and they'll probably play 4 guys, and it'll be something like Santi Aldama, Luke Kennard, Vince Williams, and Brandon Clark. I think if Luke Kennard resigns, you can pencil in Vince Williams, Brandon Clark, and Luke Kennard. That's 8 guys right there. And then when you get to your 9th guy, it's probably going to be Santi or Gigi. And there's trust in Santi. And again, I've said that there's no way Santi shoots 34 35% from 3-point range again this year. I mean, it's possible, but it just feels like he's going to get closer to, what it feels like he should be as a shooter. Maybe 36, 37, 38%, somewhere around there. But the point is, Gigi is a swing piece. He has to show those signs, average more than 2.5 assists. Make me a believer in that part of his game. Make others a believer in part of his game. He always, and he knows it. He hears it too, Joe. Like, this is the thing.
Oh, like, yeah, he's aware.
When he makes those passes, he's talking about it in the locker room all the time. Like, man, at South Carolina, I swear I couldn't pass the ball. And then after a game, we'll be talking. He's like, yeah, you see that pass I made? I'm like, yeah, I saw it. But, at the end of the day, he still only averaged 1.2 assists with the Grizzlies. So it's Gigi is a swing piece for this team, this summer league and for the upcoming season.
I am going to say Jake LaRavia. I agree with you on Gigi Jackson. I think that's my pick too. I'm just going to say somebody different for the sake of being different. I'm going to say LaRavia because right now he's the one that looks the most ready.
Yeah.
Right? Like Edey could still, use a game or two working on his touch, that sort of stuff. I want to see him pass out of double teams because those are going to be coming up here in Summer League. For me, it's can Jake LaRavia maintain that level of dominance? Because when you're a third-year player playing in Summer League and a former first-round pick to boot, if you're not dominant, if you don't look out of place in a good way, that says a lot more about you than it does Summer League. So I want to continue to see that, whether it's him cracking into the rotation at some point, whether it's him as a trade piece closer to the trade deadline. Whatever the case might be, you want to have positive outcomes and him continuing to show that he is that good where he shouldn't have to be doing this anymore. That would be a positive development. What about NBA-wide, Damichael? Is there anybody in particular, any team in particular you're excited to see?
I want to keep watching the Jazz. They were fun to watch. Other than that, nothing really just stands out. Like this is a class with top, and even a lot of the players like Scoot Henderson isn't on the Blazers roster for some reason. Amen Thompson, like he looked so fun at the end of the Rockets season, but he's not even on their Summer League roster. Like I thought he'd be super fun to watch. He's not on there, so like the guys that I want to see aren't even playing. So it is what it is.
Reed Shepherd's playing for Houston, right?
Yeah, but I wanted to see a Amen Thompson and a Reed Shepherd backcourt like that. That just gives off perfect yin to yang.
I agree with you completely on that. I look forward to watching Reed Shepherd just so I can point out every time he misses a three that he must think it's the Oakland Grizzlies out there. That's how intimidated he is by whatever Summer League opponent the Rockets are facing. I think the Wizards will be interesting. Insert joke about me being closer to Washington than Memphis here. But I think the Wizards are interesting because they finally embraced the rebuild, right? Yeah. And they've rehired their interim coach, who is very obviously a rebuild kind of coach. They're going down that path. What kind of pieces? Alex Sarr being there in Washington now. I like the Jaren Jackson Jr. comps, how active that will look in Summer League. I'm looking forward to those kinds of things. Let Damichael and I know what you're looking forward to, both Memphis and NBA-wide, going into Vegas. And we're happy to hear those conversations and chat with you about it in the comments. It's been a wonderful episode. Thank you to everybody who's been a part of it. Of course, thank you for listening, watching YouTube, but especially Apple, Spotify, Amazon. Take us with you wherever you go. Make us a part of your NBA and Memphis Grizzlies content consumption each and every time an episode drops. For we are Locked On Grizzlies, proud members of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team each and every day. Become an everydayer if you have not already done so. Until Monday, when we have a little bit actual basketball to discuss for Damichael Cole. Yeah. I am Joe Mullinax. Stay locked in over the weekend. Again, subscribe on Amazon, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Like, comment. Have a great weekend. We'll catch you back here on Monday. See you.